he's like third or fourth in the league in overall percentage of touches for a running back for his team.
Okay.
And
they got a nice matchup.
They got an awesome matchup.
Yeah.
They got an awesome matchup. So he's 7,400. I think his matchup with Barkley as the quarterback tells you that, wouldn't you want to have? I mean, Jordan Howard's make it happen. So aren't you going to try to put your pressure off this guy's second start of the year and try to run through, especially if the team that you're playing is horrible against the run?
You are. You are. No, and you're right. I think that you bring up a great point, actually. You need to start any running back against the San Francisco 49ers from this point out. That team hasn't stopped anybody.
I mean,
they haven't stopped one running back all year, not one.
No, yeah, you're right. They kind of stopped. You didn't get the game that you thought you would out of LeGarrette Blount because he didn't really score. I think he just went 124 yards, but he didn't score. But yeah, he was tearing them up. That team, that was when he didn't have Deion Lewis back. So I agree. That was my thinking, though.
Okay, well, I'm gonna throw two more suggestions out there, and then we're gonna move on to the 4 o'clock stuff because we're coming up on that time again.
Sure.
I love Ted Ginn.
I do too.
I'm a firm believer that part of the problem that Carolina defense or Carolina Panthers team altogether has had this season, part of the problem that Cam has had is the return, and somebody's going to slap me for this, but it's the return of Kelvin Benjamin. He is the only new variable in their equation this year that this team, and coming off the sidelines last week, I watched every play of that game against the Raiders. Benjamin was pissing and moaning, yelling at his coaches, pitching fits on the sidelines, pulling his Keyshawn, give me the damn ball stuff. I'd never seen him do that before, and I didn't really know if he was that kind of player or not. I think that can sometimes be ingrained in the DNA of most star wide receivers, but he's not a star yet.
No, he's not.
He's a good player. There's no doubt. The guy's super talented, but is he a star? No, he's not. So is there a problem, something that's not gelling between him and Cam? They got better when Jonathan Stewart came back from injury, but there's other problems aside from that offensive line. Ted Ginn, they went back to what they did last year. How many times did you see Ted Ginn take the top off of a defense last year? Quite a bit. He creates problems. He's going to get past your fastest corner. He's going to get past your safety in deeper coverages. He's going to create issues. He's going to take two defensive players out of the equation. If you can get him downfield, if they're afraid for 1 second, he's going to try to beat you over the top. It changes things. They haven't done that this year because they've tried to get Kelvin Benjamin involved. It's created a problem. They were a better offense when they just got Ted Ginn involved because Greg Olsen was better last year.
Yeah, well,
Devin Funchess still isn't good, but I really think that a guy like Ted Ginn, they may have just figured out. Now, granted, the Raiders secondary sucks, but I think you have to start giving Ted Ginn some credit. He doesn't catch everything, but he certainly can run with anybody in the NFL, and he's going to run with Richard Sherman or whoever else comes over and covers him in Seattle Sunday night. I like Ted Ginn at $4,900.
Yeah, and Kelvin Benjamin might not even make the game, so. How do you?
And if he's even dinged, that takes pressure off Mike Shula there to just go ahead and do what you did last year.
Yeah,
Stop
exactly.
pushing the ball to Kelvin Benjamin. Stop. It's not working anyway. So I did have a second player that I wanted to bring into the equation, but I spent entirely too much time on Ted Ginn. So moving forward, that's my thoughts there. Let's go to a 4 o'clock lineup and pick them up, and then we'll get rolling here because I do want to watch this game tonight.
Sounds good. 4 o'clock lineups. Gosh, I like. This was a tough one. This was really challenging to me. I went with either Kirk Cousins or Tyrod Taylor, and I didn't feel good about either one of them.
No, none of it sounds hot.
No, but because I really had strong feelings about certain players that I want to, obviously start. So I went with David Johnson and LaShawn McCoy as both of my running backs in both of those lineups.
That's always nice.
Yeah. So that, then my third or my first wide receiver spot, I have Mike Evans in both of them. And they're just identical lineups, so I'm going to tell you this.
Okay.
Mike Evans, and then I liked Larry Fitz and Deshaun Jackson with Vernon Davis as my tight end, because no one really stood out to me in those matchups.
Tight end position's a little bit tough this week, especially with Jordan Reed out with a significant injury.
Yeah. So, and with the 4 o'clock that we're doing, it's nearly impossible. And then I just went with Josh Lambo because I had the money. I wasn't totally broke on kicker. And I just went with Tampa's D.
That's the best call of the week right there.
San Diego is susceptible to giving up points to the D, and just the Bucs are on fire. I just hate that they're going to San Diego, but still, I'm not afraid of it.
It's a tough trip, but that's a real good defense. The defense didn't show up. They didn't show up in a fantasy aspect against Kansas City 2 weeks ago, but they completely annihilated Seattle's front seven last week. They busted their mouth, and it was something special. They did the same thing to Chicago 3 weeks ago. Now, will they do this to San Diego? San Diego's got problems. San Diego's a good football team. They're probably the second best team in every other division in the NFL, with the exception of the AFC West. That's not a bad football team, but they've got problems up front. I like the Tampa pick. I do. I like it a lot. I also like that Raiders defense this week.
Okay.
They're at home. They're playing fast. They're playing hard. If Mario Edwards gets back on the field, I really look for them to get after a guy like Tyrod Taylor and flush him out of the pocket. Raiders haven't forced enough turnovers this year, but as long as Khalil Mack is on the field, somebody should be nervous on the other side of the football. I haven't seen one team block him yet this year unless they trip him, throw a net over his head that's dropped out of a tree, and drag him off by a group of Ewoks.
Okay.
Yeah, he's been Lawrence Taylor impressive.
Wow.
He's not as good as Lawrence Taylor.
You talked me out of Tyrod Taylor, which doesn't matter. No one jumped out at me at the quarterback position. Maybe David Carr. But,
well, he's not playing, but Derek is.
That's what I mean, Derek Carr.
Everybody does it. I saw Derek Carr in an interview the other day where he said, I get called David on the streets in Oakland. From Raider fans. Dave! It's just not my name. He said he just answers to it now. He's okay with it.
That's too funny.
Yeah, the 4 o'clock lineups are tough altogether just to do that 4 o'clock only, but this is such a valuable opportunity to hit something big.
It is, and that's why I like them, but this one is pretty difficult because there's just none of that clear-cut starter. I thought at the quarterback position that you could then build a team around and feel good about,
How do you feel about Jameis Winston this week?
Okay, but just going on the road.
I prefer to start a home quarterback. I always do too.
Yeah, maybe Ben Roethlisberger, but again, he was just so much money.
Roethlisberger's really high priced, and I'm telling you, that Giants secondary is very, very good. Eli Apple, the rookie, is playing exceptionally well. Landell Collins, the second year kid out of LSU, has been probably the best defensive back in the NFL this year. That's a good secondary.
Yeah,
I'm scared of Pittsburgh, even though they are at home. The turf there at Heinz Field tends to slow down defenders more than it does receivers. Is that game a shootout? I got the over-under right here. It's at 48. That's not low.
No, I mean, it was tempting.
7 touchdowns.
They're so expensive that I didn't like who you have left when you're looking to fulfill that number 3 wide receiver.
That eliminates a lot of other opportunity. Yeah,
the only, I mean, gosh, yeah. Yeah, there's not too many people. Maybe a Dontrell Inman, especially if Tyreek doesn't play. Tyrell Williams.
I'm going to do, for the sake of my homerisms on my 4 o'clock lineup, I am running Derek Carr out there.
Okay.
I am. He's been too good not to. I don't know what kind of room that's going to leave me, but if I can get Carr to have a 22-point day, I'm going to be really excited. I think you can still find room for a David Johnson in that lineup, but you may not have to. Doug Martin's going to touch the ball 20 times.
Yeah, He's not come on as a points machine like he's been in 2 or 3 years ago.
No, Seattle's good against the run. They will do their job, but he had 87 yards last week, but on 23 carries. So that's workhorse numbers. That's a lot of touches. Prior to that, against Kansas City, 24 carries, 63 yards. It was even worse. But those are two really good run defenses that I think. Kansas City does guard against the run well. Their numbers may not show it, but teams don't run on them well. Denver couldn't last Sunday either. Doug Martin's always on the table to discuss because I think he's going to get the touches because I just don't think you have a lot of choices in the 4 o'clock range. Do you take a chance on a Jalen Richard in Oakland and hope he breaks a 75-yard touchdown? That's tough.
Man, I would think in these games that at the running back position, the 2 running backs are sure things, possibly even the third, if you want to include Le'Veon. So I would think that you'd have to put your money in those spots more than the wide receiver position. That's just
Tell you what I'm going to do. Tell you what I'm going to do here, Sam. I'm going to include Le'Veon Bell.
Okay.
And I'm going to mix him in there with Jalen Richard.
Okay.
Between the two of them, that's like a $14,000 play. That puts you at a $7,000 average on your running backs. Richard is really, that's a wild card play, but he's a wild card that could touch the ball 10, 12 times, maybe get a dump-off screen pass touchdown, maybe 50, 60 yards somewhere else. You get a 12-point day out of a 4,800-point play. That's pretty good if you can get 28 points out of Le'Veon Bell.
Oh, without a doubt. And
that logic is nice. That logic is real nice. I hate to forego LaShawn McCoy this week, but I just can't do it.
Man, I'm surprised that you're doing that.
I know. I'm going to probably fit him into a lineup somewhere else.
You wanted to go homer too, so it's.
I am going to go homer, but it's a tough play. The wide receiver position. What kind of room do you have at this point, then, with this kind of lineup? Do you mix in a Deshaun Jackson and hope he catches one over the top? I don't think so.
Well, obviously that he's not going to be covered by Patrick Peterson, right?
He shouldn't be.
Yeah, so
he's
the logical guy that I would think is going to go make something happen.
Who's Peterson on? Peterson going to be on Garcon or Jamison Crowder?
One or the other, I would think.
I would think so. I would think that...
I would put him on Crowder, probably.
That strikes me as one of these games that shit could hit the fan. I'm going to pay attention to a couple other players. One of which I think if you're going to homer out, go homer out and mix Amari Cooper in there. Stephen Gilmore from Buffalo will be on Michael Crabtree. Crabtree is dinged. But I think you can get Cooper and Evans in the mix. You're just going to have to sell out on a much cheaper wideout.
Now, here's what I'm working on right now, just as a caveat. I got a Kirk Cousins going with David Johnson, LaShawn McCoy, and Antonio Brown. And then I have 12-4 left. So I can go Sammy Watkins and Deshaun Jackson. That's a gutsy call.
Yeah, anybody against that Raider secondary is not a bad idea at all. They haven't covered anybody well. The more speed, the better. Check into a cheap play like a Marquise Goodwin. If he's healthy, the kid can fly, and somebody's going to try to get him the ball over the top against that Raider secondary. Here's the thing:
everybody else is hurt for the Bills.
Buffalo.
Yeah, so I mean, it's almost. I know. Watkins sat out, and so he's going to be on the quote-unquote a limited snap count. But at this point, if he's healthy, he's literally going to be the only guy that just, probably going to have any chance of catching the ball. So he might go off this week. So I like this. Like I said, I have a Brown, Watkins, Jackson with the Vernon Davis and the Josh Lambo and the Bucks.
Okay.
I'm gonna book this one, baby.
Book it. On that note, my brother, we have rambled on tonight, had a lot of fun, and hopefully we didn't confuse anybody like I confused myself through most of the evening. But this was kind of a freewheeling episode for us to just pick through and find ways. We discovered a new contest tonight in